I'm a fan of fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And welcome to a Wednesday night, 10 o'clock, to the Sportscrew Radio Network. And I am joined by Mr. Chris Allen, who I haven't seen in a few weeks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's been, it's the night before the NFL draft. I mean, all of this, all the rumors, all that stuff, we finally get to throw all that out the window and have actual news tomorrow night.
We've had this discussion in the past. I'm a big NFL draft person. It's been an event for me for a long time. And actually, I miss that it's not all one day anymore.
Right. That's right, because you do food and like all sorts of stuff.
We used to. When it was on a Saturday, it was a big deal. We did a pretty big deal on draft Saturday. Over all the years, it just was one of those things we just always watched.
Yeah.
Or paid attention. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the draft wasn't on TV. So, I mean, but I don't know. I'm excited. We talked just a second before we got on the air. Unfortunately, with what's going on in the world today, I've become a news person. I don't follow sports like I have. And obviously it's because there's not a lot of them.
Right.
I'm a continuous sports podcast going on almost all the time. I can't say ESPN anymore, but I have a lot of sports things usually on in the background all the time. And I don't right now. I'm wrapped up into the other things happening in the world today, the once in a lifetime situation versus the, a draft happens every year. So I hope we entertain people tonight and give some information, and I know no one tunes into this to listen to what I have to say anyway, but
I do.
I know, me too. I listen to me all the time. No, you're my helper. I mean, I am now a very successful fantasy player. And I give you all the credit.
Okay.
But that being said, I am excited that we have a real life sporting event, if you want to call it that, going on tomorrow night.
Right.
I'm looking forward to it. We're 20 hours away, something like that. I guess I'd have to pay attention. I'm not sure when exactly it goes off. 7 o'clock.
It starts at 8, I think.
Okay, I think 7 is when they actually start. The first pick's at 8.
Yeah.
I think it's
coverage. Coverage starts around like 7:30, and I think the you're on the clock starts at like 8 o'clock.
Okay. And we've always talked over the years. I haven't used my multiple TVs in so long. I hope they even work because
who knows?
You don't need multiple TVs when you're just watching Netflix.
Right.
I mean, we've never tried that. We've never tried to watch two shows at the same time, but we have watched a show with multiple sporting events going on. But I don't know. We'll see. So tomorrow, for the first time in a long time, I'll have all the TVs popped up and going because we have this every year. I like to watch all the different venue, I don't know, or networks or
platforms, whatever
platforms. The ESPN one has not been my favorite for the last 3 or 4 years. ESPN's college coverage, I think, is better because
Herb Street was on that, I thought, for a while.
Herb Street, it's the same, the Saturday, whatever they call their
the game day
crew. And they come at it as a because I'm a big college sports fan, obviously, especially with the Buckeyes.
Right.
So
I know Herb Street's from here.
Yeah. And I just think I get better coverage from the college kids from the college crew. I mean, the guys in the NFL, I get it. They're NFL people and they're talking more about how it affects the teams than the players. So
right. That's their angle.
Yeah. And that's been the last few years. Now, last year though, I went with, you might have to help me, which is Chris Collinsworth's fantasy.
EFF, Pro Football Focus.
Yes. That's who I ended up. I had multiple ones on and
they're really good.
And I caught myself last year keeping that one on the longest, meaning I watched that one more last year. So I am looking forward to tomorrow. because now with YouTube, and that's the thing, a lot of people don't realize most of these are now live on YouTube as well as the networks. So you do have the ability to watch different ones. So that's the first thing I'd tell people, just, flip around, find fun coverage. And I just like the fantasy aspect of that they brought to it, because ESPN didn't bring much fantasy. Now, someone said that last year for the first round that they did a third show that was fantasy, but I didn't pay attention or missed it. So
I didn't hear about that. I don't know.
Because they do have on Sunday mornings, they do have a fantasy show on ESPN.
Yeah, with Barry, Stefania, Clay.
Which to me would make sense why not have them on, draft day. So
fantasy should be a part of every single NFL package. I mean, there's just no way that the NFL can get around how big of an impact that fantasy football is to the league, to the revenue, to how much folks watch. I mean, the island games, like the Thursday night games, ain't nobody watching the Thursday night matchup between the Titans and the Jags unless you happen to have one of those players playing like on your fantasy football team.
Well,
that's it.
I do now because I'm in fantasy, but I always was a big football fan. I'm one of those that would have watched Thursday night and Monday night. I watched it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. The numbers are where they are because of fantasy.
Yes.
Now, that being said, ESPN, this is obviously the right time to do it because there are no other sports.
Yeah.
So every network, and I think if I'm not mistaken, ABC's on it tomorrow.
Yeah. So why not indulge? Like, why not push into an area, especially now when...
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can't imagine that they aren't. And especially ESPN, who has 3 or 4 different networks where they couldn't have one of them, ESPN 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, I can't imagine one of them's not focusing on fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw, and I don't know if you caught this, but on ESPN, they now started streaming the playoffs for esports, like during the regular broadcasting.
Okay, the esports thing I haven't bought into yet.
Well, I figured as much.
No, except while I'm laid off right now, I'm going to become. I should have brought up here. I bought me a steering wheel.
Oh man,
I've got Gran Turismo, and I'm slowly becoming a professional race car driver.
So we're gonna see you on like Twitch, like streaming all of your, your video gaming.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm so good. I'm gonna be in the real streets. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Now that being said, I've watched a little bit of the iRacing. Have you watched?
I have not.
NASCAR is doing a little. NASCAR's pulling off. They're actually getting viewership on these iRaces.
Huh. That's not surprising.
And when they're on Sunday, they're running, they're running certain races. Because see, here's the thing that's cool about that. I have followed it a little bit. You can't take a football player, a basketball player, or a baseball player, and then give them a controller and say, here, you should be good at eFootball. Right.
Yeah.
The NASCAR drivers, that's a different story.
Right.
They train on simulators. They play a lot of them just play the games. They're doing the whole thing. So
yeah,
they are, and that's what's kind of cool. So they have real NASCAR drivers that are driving in there, but they also have the top esports racers also participating.
See, that's really cool. That's really cool.
So it is cool. Yeah. So
they should do that with golf.
When you first watch it, it real quickly, you first think this is like a real race. And then you finally realize, well, it's digital. It's not, but the pit crews are talking and they're tuning in, Jeff Gordon. I mean, the announcers are the real announcers. So they've taken it a step further, and only to the point, even to the point of they have the sponsors are now putting money there. The cars are being painted like the real cars. There's been different sponsors. There's been people sponsoring drivers, the drivers that aren't even in the real circuit, but they want to be involved in this. So it really is, a true, esport event, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Because it is the real athlete that you would maybe tune in to normally. Yeah. Now that being said, I don't know. So do you know anything about this? Now, did you hear the negative that happened a couple weeks ago?
Was that when the racial slur?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was communicating with just his, which that's not,
that doesn't make it better.
No, I'm not. What I'm going to say is I'm going to go off that topic. They really have spotters too. Really? Yes. Because what they do is the spotter has the ability on his computer to look at different angles of the race car to see behind whatever. So he actually, every driver, not all of them have spotters. So they don't have them. Dale Jr. actually, what's kind of cool. Dale Jr. retired from real NASCAR, but is now driving an e-race car because he sponsors a real e-team. Does that make sense? Meaning he literally sponsors real, because he has been doing e-racing for a long time. He actually has they have rigs too. They're called rigs. It's like sitting in the cockpit of a car and it's got like 4 monitors that go wrap around them and all that.
Wow.
And they have a spotter, somebody who's watching the race from a different angle to tell him, high side, low side and all that.
Right.
Well, obviously that's where this driver, who is no longer a NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
He thought he was just talking to that person, but,
oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't say Pollock. I'm just saying.
No, he did not.
And unfortunately, NASCAR already has a little bit of a
stigma.
I think a stigma is the right word to use.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't, like I said, I think this is it's like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, is never going to probably be in baseball until he passes away. And this kid's never going to be in NASCAR again either. He broke unfortunately, I don't want to say the cardinal rule. It is a pretty important rule. It's just bad for this sport. It's not the place
because it's already a stereotype for most of the sport.
And then the week before that, the big controversy is one of the real NASCAR racers quit in the middle of the race. He was pissed off.
He just said, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, no, something happened. I mean, like in a real race, I was a NASCAR guy a long time ago. I've kind of dropped off the racing thing, but in NASCAR, when you're driving a real car and your life's threatened, things happen in a race where people get hot headed. I mean, there's fights. It is one of those sports. He got upset over a crash that really happened in the E-race, and he was so pissed off he quit.
Wow.
And then his sponsor dropped him. His real sponsor.
Okay.
Because his real sponsor was on the car he was driving that he quit in. And the real sponsor came back and said, you know what, if this is where you are going to be.
Oh, well, then I'm not. Yeah.
Even in this, we're not even going to sponsor you in the real NASCAR. So he lost his sponsorship.
Okay.
In real racing over the e-racing.
Not good.
No. So people, I'm now taking up e-racing. I'm not going to make these mistakes.
Well, now don't forget about us when you wind up getting the little people, when you get your big deal you're just off, doing these races and all sorts of stuff. And
I suck at all games and I suck at racing games. And I'm thinking like, I'm old enough. I've driven my whole life. I can't drive. So I literally bought multiple racing games and everyone said the Gran Turismos. Do you know anything about any race games?
Gran Turismo I know of.
Well, Gran Turismo they say has the best training course, meaning if you go through every step and just follow and let them teach you. So I've gone halfway through the school, like 49 lessons or whatever. So I started racing this morning, and I won I'm much better today than I was just a couple days ago. So
all right,
I'm pretty sure by next week I will be, a sim racer.
Okay,
so I did. I went out and bought a steering wheel and some pedals. I figure if I'm not going to work.
So are you going to build a rig now? So you're going to have I'm
not sure I'm riggable yet.
All right.
Because the rig setup is more for computer. I'm playing on the PlayStation 4, I think is what it is.
Okay.
So that's what I'm at right now. So if I dick with my computer, then we might not be able to do this anymore because my computer.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Don't do that. But
I could be sitting here right now steering and having a good time. So
do you get the brake pedal and all that too?
Yes. Now I went without the clutch. I bought the two. I bought the two. It's got a gas and a brake, and then it's got a steering wheel. And the steering wheel is like, it's got buttons on it and it's got the shifters on the handles and and all that. So,
but how are you going to do it? You have to have the manual transmission, man. Like, how are you going to have it without the clutch?
In most of the cars you have, it has automatic. Now they say, now the steering wheel has a shifter up here, and then what you do is instead of having the clutch on the foot, which a lot of NASCAR, a lot of races now, I know for a fact, a lot of the real high-end race cars, there's no clutch. It's all, it's not automatic either, but it's all, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know I'd
have to look into that.
But it's just, they just shove it up, shove it out, just move it around. There's no real clutch involved. So
interesting.
And it's done by the hand. So you set it up on the steering wheel, and it's like Formula One cars. They're hitting buttons on there. If you ever seen a Formula One race, their steering wheel looks like a damn, I mean, it's phenomenal. All the buttons on it. There's no shifter. There's no nothing. They never leave their hands. They're shifting right from the steering wheel. They're just tapping buttons.
Okay.
It's all computer driven. Yeah. It's like you're gassing your car. You realize that the gas pedal in your car is really not connected to a carburetor anymore, or it's just a switch that controls a computer that tells it to give it gas. So if they can do that with the gas, I'm sure they can do that with the clutch.
Okay.
And I'm sure now we'll have no listeners because we spent 10 minutes
talking about NASCAR. Well, not even a real NASCAR.
Right. We talked about me. That's important, though. We did talk about my future sim career.
Of course.
Now, are you doing anything? I don't even know. Are you still you still home right now?
Yes. I've been working from home for the past.
So you're actually working. Your job has not gone away. You're just doing it at home.
No. Yeah. My job has not gone away. I'm one of the fortunate few that is continuing to work, even though working from home with 3 kids in the house is its own, own curse. My father-in-law had to step back. And so I'm actually now even though I'm not working, I'm doing more nursing stuff every day right now, and 3 meals and cleaning and doing stuff. So I'm almost ready to go to work now. And I've only been off 2 days. Right.
So our company at least went as long as we could. And so I'm laid off. So I'm not working from home. So I'm sim driving. So
you're hanging out.
So in the middle of the day, are you on a full, again, no one cares. So I'm going to ask you, are you on a schedule? Like, are you literally sitting at a desk for 8 hours, clocking in, clocking out? Or are they just, you need to have this done by tomorrow at 8?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like my job was always predicated on deliverables since I work for the Department of Defense. I'm a contractor. So all of our stuff is deliverable based. So as long as we have our stuff in on time or we're meeting our like short-term deliverables, then everything's okay. All right. So I'm mostly just sitting in meetings and writing emails and
you guys. So you're doing meetings on computers and all that stuff. And
yep, I'm on the phone today. I was on the phone
using your podcast setup to be
I have actually been doing that.
Sounding person in the room,
of course,
in the meetings.
They're like, "Why do you have like such like nice setup and like you already got your webcam and everything set up and you got like a nice microphone and and all that?" And I'll be like, "Because I'm on an award-winning podcast."
That's right. You're the man. You're the man.
Got to let people know.
All right. Well, then, but since we'll move this into football.
What about it?
Well, my first thing is, do you think we will have football?
No,
I don't either. I know. And that's what makes tomorrow not as fun either.
That's the scary part.
I really think I also believe if we do have it, it's not going to be what we've had in the past. So
yeah, I mean, at best, we're probably talking about like, crowdless stadiums.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably our best bet at this point, unless something miraculous happens in the vaccine area, but other than that,
my problem with football over all the other sports still is how many people are required on the sidelines. I still think that could be a problem too. Meaning, if you look, on a basketball court, they can play basketball and still only have 12, 15 people on each side.
Yep. But there are 53 man rosters.
You can have, I think there's 22 or 25, players and a few coaches. And you can obviously keep some of those in the dugout, only 9s playing at a time. So you could,
but you got some guys back in the bullpen and all that.
But in football, you have 50-ish people involved in the game.
And they just
you have
expanded.
A zillion coaches.
Yeah, they just expanded the game day rosters, didn't they, with the latest CBA? They tacked on a couple of players on top of that. Yeah. So you got at least mid 50-ish actual
doctors,
players.
Coaches. There. I don't, what do you, and
yeah. You probably got, let's say in total, probably 70 to 75 people.
I think that's a low number.
I'm that's probably
I think you have 70 estimate. In players. Now, not all of them are dressed. You know, the rosters are 50 something, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have guys that aren't, dressed. You're going to have guys that are, so I think just you're going to have 70 and just players / part of the player platform. And then you'll have the coaching staff. Then you'll have the referees and the NFL people. Yeah. And if you're going to, there's no way you do this without fans and not televise it. So then you got a big TV crew, or at least a handful of cameras.
Right.
Right. And again, I don't want to be a bummer, but at the same time, if you have a fantasy league, you need to be prepared. You need to at least have a meeting and say, guys, what are we going to do? I mean, are we just going to lock the league until something changes? Are we going to, and even then, let's say, like I said, obviously best case scenario is everything goes off as planned.
Yeah.
Worst case is there is no football at all. Somewhere in between could be something you need to discuss with your league. Somewhere in between might not be fantasy relevant, meaning, I don't know, would a, and I was trying to think, an 8-game schedule work for fantasy? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
So if they decide, hey, all we're going to do is we're going to play each team in your division twice, and then maybe rotate 2 odd games to get 10, 8 or 10 in. Well, yeah, by then you really can't.
I just don't see it.
I don't either. So I do think there's a chance there's football and no fantasy. So yeah, I do struggle with that. I really think, and I think college football is even closer to being, ousted, because there it's college kids. Technically, you can't if the colleges aren't open, you can't have college football. In my opinion, I don't know how you do that.
No, I don't know how you do that either. But then you get into the discussion of player like college eligibility.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of dominoes that are.
Yeah, I just don't think it's doable. So,
right.
So I'm worried. So that's kind of where I.
Yeah.
So what do you do right now? If you're the commissioner of a league, we did our first podcast for the League of Anarchy last Tuesday or whatever, and we kind of made it a league meeting. We did it live, but we didn't record it. We've decided to right now our league's kind of frozen. Meaning we're not gonna. It's a keeper league, so right now normally there might be some trades going on where people are trading, keepers or draft picks for a keeper, those kind of things. But right now we've said no, because we didn't think it's right to make deals or trades for a season that may not happen. So what might seem like a good deal for a keeper really would be not good at all. You know what I'm saying? We've kind of frozen it until we know what's going to go on.
I think that makes sense for redrafting keeper leagues. I would really hold off on doing much of anything until probably middle of August, to be quite honest. Like if anything's going to happen, we'll know by then.
I think you have to have camp. You have to have some kind of camp.
Yeah, you have to have something.
Once there's a camp, then I'll buy in that we might have a season, because I don't think the NFL is going to open a camp if they don't think they're going to play.
Well, I mean, the Saints already came out and said they're doing no spring off-season programs. Like none of their spring stuff. They're canceling all of that. That's the first team that's going to come out and do it. I'm assuming most of the other squads will probably come out and do the same thing shortly after the draft. I mean, but I can see a lot of, and to me, that already signals that a lot of the free agents and veterans that are on the move, I mean, that's going to set them back, because that's going to be less time that they're going to have to get integrated into their offenses, so on and so forth. So it's going to set a lot of programs back. And until I see, summer camps and like all that, like off-season workouts, like starting to happen, I mean, it's just, I don't know how this is going to work out, like come August, September.
And then even going back, even if there's NFL and no college, that means tomorrow night might be the only draft that we'll see for 2 years.
Right. And that's actually, I was just on another show earlier, kind of going through like what we think might happen. Is there going to be like an emergency draft for some of the guys that decided to go back to school like this season? Are they going to wind up doing like some sort of draft like later on where it's just, okay, well, you're going to be put on a team, but we don't know how things are going to I don't know. I mean, what are they going to want to do? I
assumed if there's no college football, they would eligibility in college. I would assume they would roll it over and we would just have a draft 2 years from now, but
right.
Who knows?
But for some of those guys like running backs, I mean, a 23-year-old running back has a much different value than a 22 or 21-year-old running back.
Well, but a 23-year-old that didn't play as a 22-year-old because there was no college football, to me, is still a little different than a 25 or 26-year-old guy who skips the NFL for 1 year and then come back. I don't know. I mean, I don't. They're still young enough. Yeah. I don't think it would hurt. I think it hurts. There's going to be some people that it really affects. I think the NFL would have to, like you said, decide what they were going to do,
because they're not the only person that's banking on. They're not the only entity that's banking on there being a season. The college players that decided to go back this season, and also the juniors and seniors that are looking to declare for the 21 season. I mean, they need there to be a season in order for them to have teams to go to.
Like I said, it's odd. It's just strange, and
we're living in weird times, man. I mean, and that's just, I mean, and let's just be completely honest. I mean, the football is, I mean, a drop in the bucket as in terms of problems compared to what other folks are.
Oh, I agree. Like I said, I'm buying into the news, man. I am paying more attention to this virus thing than I am sports. So I really. Am I missing sports? Sure. But when I normally be watching sports, I am watching news, I'm watching things, I'm watching programs. And then obviously because I'm not watching sports, me and the wife have picked up a few programs and I'm watching things. So to say I'm not missing sports like I thought I would. But that's because, like you just said, it's different times. If sports just went away one day, that's different, if everything was normal, but no sports, I don't think I would deal with that as much as I am now. Something, in my opinion, has filled that gap. That's more important. A disease that's going all around the world to me is, it's filled
a little bit more important.
Yeah. So I'm interested in how people are handling it. I'm watching weird news channels. I'm watching crazy YouTubers, for different reasons, and my wife will sometimes go, why are you listening to that? I know you don't believe. I said, no, but I want to know, I still want to know, I've been watching some of the YouTube videos of the people who are, I was going to say hoarders. That's not the thing. They call them
the preppers. The preppers,
the prepper stuff. You know what? I bought extra bacon. I don't know if that makes me a prepper, but I find it interesting. I guess I've bought in. I'm sorry. If maybe I should get in a prepper fantasy league and we could, draft YouTube preppers.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sorry if you guys are going to be mad at me. I've bought into maybe I'm the problem that the media is not going to, is going overboard, but I have people in my house that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about, I'm an old man. I'm concerned a little bit. So
yeah, you are an old man.
Real football. And obviously the big news, that we have to discuss again is, a big tight end, signing happened. A big, a change in the tight end, for fantasy for both. And that is Trey Burton signing with the Colts. I mean, we just can't, it's everywhere. We have to talk about
no other tight end fantasy news that's going on.
And Trey, you know what? I have liked Trey Burton since the day he came out of the draft. What's wrong with Trey Burton? Why has Trey Burton not been the next Gronkowski or the next? He's a big guy. He can catch. He's fast. What is going on with Trey Burton? And is this, the Colts seem to have two tight ends, and we just thought maybe it was only going to be Jack Doyle Nope. They go and sign another tight end. So real quick, I know this isn't the tight end that people are talking about, but I do like Trey Burton. I have picked him up a couple times thinking maybe this is the year.
With his situation, I honestly believe part of it is not to overblow it, but I'll just simply state it that it is partially a mental health thing. He was on record last season, towards, I think it was during the offseason program, and I think during the regular season as well, as having bouts of anxiety. And I think it was at least anxiety, if not anxiety and depression, that kept him away from the team, and his inability to, I guess, get on the same page with some of his teammates because he was just spending more time dealing with that. Not to say that that's wrong, but I'm saying that I thought that was a part
last year, and I guess this is his fourth year in the league, though. I mean, and maybe he's been dealing with it the whole time. I just thought he was a tight end for fantasy that was going to be a pass catcher, a guy that. Obviously, it hurts Doyle. A lot of people thought that Doyle now would be the guy. And we all know that Rivers likes tight ends. Rivers is not shied away from, if you give him a good tight end, he will throw to him a lot. So,
yeah. And he was clearly hurt. I mean, I think he had a groin injury or something like that, towards during the season. But I know that was just a part of, and something that he opened up about, dealing with anxiety and all that. So all of those things kind of mixed together. That's kind of where we find ourselves with him, but not to take away from his athleticism.
Right. Fantasy football has made me pay more attention to the, two tight ends, obviously, when you're, and I guess before fantasy, I still was a big football guy and watched a lot, but never could, if we really dissected how hard an actual position is, could tight end be at the very top?
It has to be.
So you already think the tight end is the hardest position to play in the NFL?
If not, I mean, if you want to go ahead and throw quarterback in there as being the hardest position to play, then I'm not going to argue with you about that. But I would say, other than quarterback, I mean, what other position asks you to play multiple positions? I mean, tight ends, they are asked to be blockers. They're asked to be pass catchers. They're asked to be, some of them are asked to take snaps out of the backfield. I mean, just depending on how athletic you are.
Right.
I mean, there's no real other position that asks you to put your body, to put different parts of your body on the line every almost any down. And
even what you just said, and in some plays they have to do both. In some plays they're blocking, so they have to know the blocking scheme,
and then you release.
And then they have to release. Not that other wide receivers don't do that, but a lot of tight ends, it's every play. I mean, I think I've learned that now playing fantasy more than I have anything else, that tight end, I would say to me, and again, we can say quarterbacks have a lot more to do, but it quarterback most of the time is just throwing and handing off the ball. Not that that's not hard. They've got other things going on. But the tight end physically has to be able to do 2 and 3 and 4 different things all the time. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's why you do see more teams struggle with having one good tight end. So they're always rotating them, and it's a little harder. So when you get the Gronk, who we're going to talk about, obviously, and people will say most just amateur football people don't understand how good Gronk is at everything.
He's not
passes.
Yes, you can go back to watching his tape, in him and Tom Brady's prime. Let's say the early 2010s, somewhere in there, in their prime. I mean, Rob Gronkowski was a Hall of Fame tight end, just for his blocking.
Yes,
like his ability as a blocker, in line, how he can create holes, he can create space for running backs, or keeping Tom Brady clean in the pocket. I mean, that was enough to set him apart from the rest of the tight ends in the league just on that. But then if you now tack on the fact that he could run routes, he was fast, he was a big body guy that could, scale above almost any cornerback in the league and just run up the seam and catch a touchdown. I mean, there's just, he was, and hopefully he is still unstoppable as a player on the field.
Right. And it's just, you would watch him, and when you start learning, you would watch him. Not only could he stand in there and hold a block for 2 minutes, he still would be in the right spot to catch a pass if he needed to be.
Right.
I mean, he would know, okay, I've been here long enough. I've kept this guy from getting to Tom for my 2 minutes now. And boom, the next thing you know, he's 7 yards down the field, exactly where he needed to be if Tom needed to dump something off.
Right.
Just really was amazing. So
yeah, I'm with you.
I love that Rob is coming back into the league. But for fantasy, I think, in my opinion, for me, this kills every Tampa Bay player. I think it hurts every Tampa Bay player that Gronk is now on that team. I think it makes Tampa Bay a much better team, but I think it makes Evans and Godwin and all those drop at least a couple spots, if not more, now that Gronk is there. And if Gronk is Gronk, it could hurt him even worse. If Gronk's just okay, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this for fantasy. If I have keepers on Tampa Bay, your opinion?
If I had keepers on Tampa Bay, I'm still holding them at current value because the wide receivers, I think, they're fine. Like, I'm not saying that they're let's say for a guy like Chris Godwin, I think he's fine.
Okay, fine. Let's say he's I don't know. There's some people that have him late first round, his second round mainly, maybe third round. I don't know. I wouldn't
take best ball ADP had both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin going in the Chris Godwin ahead of Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin was going in the mid to late second. Mike Evans was going in the late second, early mid third.
Either one of those there now.
I would still probably take Chris Godwin at cost, maybe slightly behind. If I can get him maybe a few picks behind ADP and get him in the late second round, I would be okay with that.
If anything, this even hurts just touchdown numbers. Even if the catches stay the same, you got to assume at a minimum, if Gronk comes back and isn't Gronk 100%, he's still going to be Gronk probably 100% in that 10-yard in area, I'd assume. I don't know. And if anything, the only person that might have boosted a little bit, which probably wasn't a top 12 quarterback anyway, was Tom Brady. With Brady now having all these weapons, is Brady the sleeper on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think Brady, I don't think necessarily was the sleeper, because if anybody looked at what Tampa Bay had before they added Gronk, I mean, he was inheriting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He was also inheriting, whatever you think about OJ Howard and Cameron Brate, you're inheriting, 3, 4, 5, legitimate offensive weapons. So if we were concerned with what Tom Brady didn't have in New England last season, because he had a banged up Julian Edelman and then the rookie N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers, all of those guys, right. But now he gets an upgrade in 2 top 12 receivers, at least 1 top 12 tight end, if you still consider OJH in that range, then Tom Brady always had value. He had immediate upside compared to where he was at in New England. So tacking on Gronk, I think it's going to increase his price, but I really don't think that before they added Gronk, he was already a valuable pick where he was at anyway. So I don't think he's the sleeper. I just think it now emphasizes more value at an intersecting position. And by intersecting position, I mean the quarterback position is where all the value intersects at. Because if we don't want to invest in the wide receivers because we think they're getting knocked back because of Gronk, but we don't want to invest in Gronk because we think he's might be old, washed up, or whatever. Right. We don't like either of the tight ends because they haven't done anything in the past, but we still think that offense is going to be good. Where does all that value intersect at? It intersects at Tom Brady. So you just draft the quarterback and be done with it.
Yeah. In a 2 quarterback league now, I'm much more willing to, if I could get Tom Brady late or something like that. And in some keeper leagues, I'd have to look in our keeper league, even Brady was picked late enough last year that Brady, now he might actually be a keeper value if you got him so late, last year. That now this year, let's say you got him last year. Let's say if you got him last year in the 16th round in a 2 quarterback league, would you keep him in the 14th this year if he went?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, me too. I agree. He would, before this signing, I might not have. Now with this signing, and are they still going to be, Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones? Do we have an idea what they're going to do running back, or are they going to draft one tomorrow?
The consensus hope is that they draft one, but I honestly don't think that they need to draft one, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if Tom Brady can still sling the rock like 500 to 600 times, like within a season, which is what he did last season, then they really don't need a high-end running back in order to complement that squad. They can do it just the same way that Jameis Winston did it last season with still having Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber on the roster.
Right.
But it's just
Tom Brady. Right. Tom Brady is proven when they were at their prime and they had Gronk and a couple decent wide receivers, they were able to make okay running backs fantasy relevant.
Yeah, they were trotting out like LeGarrette Blount like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
so why do they need somebody like that?
Same thing now. Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, two guys that you might have had got real late last year, now might be keepers.
Right.
Because like you said, they might be the guy. I don't even know. I think neither one of them in my mind, I picture either one of them as being big backs, but isn't Peyton Barber more of the third down or goal line?
Peyton Barber, he left in free agency and now he's with the Washington Redskins. So it really is just.
So he already left. So,
it's just Ronald Jones.
Is
Ronald Jones and Darwe Ongumbole.
Oh, all right. I couldn't tell you anything about him. But
more of the pass catching back than anything else. That's typically where he was used in last season.
I got you. Now, see, I don't know why. See, that's why I need you, Peyton Barber. I'd have picked him up tomorrow. Not if he's on the Redskins.
Well, no, I would not do that.
So there's the messed up backfield still. Then,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh well. So Ronald Jones, if you got him, might be a keeper.
I still think they wind up drafting someone like throughout the weekend, but I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, and it might not even be on Friday for day 2. It might just be like a 4th round guy that they could just have as depth, and since they don't have to, they have holes to address elsewhere.
Right.
Like they still need help on the perimeter on their defense. They still could use some help on offensive line. So they could probably use some help there.
And I think they're picking in the middle, right? Aren't they 15th, 14th, I think, somewhere like that?
Yeah.
So, obviously running backs don't go that high anymore. So yeah, they obviously could get a top running back there if they decide to go that route. Who is the number 1 running back coming out right now?
Jonathan Taylor.
He's the number 1 guy. Would you like him if he was on Tampa Bay?
Would I like him there?
Yep.
The fantasy mind in me says yes. Let's freaking go all day long. But the football part of me says that what they would have to invest in order to get him doesn't make any damn sense.
I got you. No. So that's too early to get to go for him that early in the round. So
yeah, first, second round draft capital. No.
Okay. So. See, that's where you would know more. So where the number 1 running back tomorrow, will we see a running back pick then in the first round? Or you're saying
so.
No?
Yeah, I think so.
So
at least one.
At least one.
Yeah, I think there'll be at least one.
All right.
Somebody's gonna take the cheese. I mean, there has to be. I mean, what draft? I'd have to actually check the history logs and find out like what NFL draft has not had a running back in the first round.
I thought we had one just recently. Because I thought 2 years ago, Barkley was taken in the first, and I thought that was the first time in a year. I didn't think the year before there was. Now,
because I thought it was like Zeke like the year beforehand.
I thought Zeke was 2 years before him. Isn't Zeke in his 4th year and Barkley in his 2nd?
No, this is Barkley's 3rd. Well, this year.
But it would be Zeke's 5th.
Yeah, well, right, because he did the
I thought there was 2 years in between them.
Yeah, it might have been.
I remember the good old days where running backs and quarterbacks went the first 10 picks.
Oh, well, yeah.
And now the best running back might not go till, late first, early second, or even later. So, All right. Let's talk our Bengals. The rumor came out today that Burrow has said, and that's the point. He's not saying, but everyone else is saying he said that the Bengals have already told him he will be the number 1 pick.
He better be.
I agree. I still was praying my Bengals would trade down, but
no, let's go. Let's do it.
So you're ready. You're ready to have
I'm ready.
An Ohio boy.
Let's have some fun with the Bengals. If we're going to go down in flames, let's at least do it with one of the most prolific college quarterbacks that has had one of the all-time seasons.
But it's still, my argument there with that still is it was just still one season.
I don't care.
I know, and no one does. No one else seems to care.
I mean, well,
Maybe,
let's say, I say that I don't care because Mitchell Trubisky had one good season as a starter at North Carolina, and he came out and he flamed out.
Okay.
But I would say that Joe Burrow looks way better than Mitchell Trubisky ever did in college. So at least let's have some fun. Let's have some fun with a guy that was just throwing deep. When was the last time that we saw a Cincinnati quarterback just airing it out left and right to his receivers? And we have like what we saw in the BCS national championship game.
Now, okay. And I understand that. My question still is it Tua? Is that the Alabama quarterback?
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa.
If he doesn't get hurt, everyone thought he would be the number one quarterback taken if before the college season ended and before he got hurt.
Yes, it would have been either one of those two.
Well, I know that Burrow was not in the discussion at the beginning of the college year, or even maybe halfway through that he would be the number one quarterback. And that's what always scares me.
I don't care at this point. I don't care. Just burn it all down. Let's have some fun. If we're going to flame out, let's at least do it aggressively. That's what I want. If you're going to be bad,
my next
be bad aggressively.
Is Andy Dalton is still a Bengal.
That's fine.
Will he start this season if there is a season?
No. If they take Burrow, it needs to be Burrow.
Okay, but in the past, the Bengals have sat their quarterback for a year. They have.
I know.
I've watched them over the years. They've drafted many a quarterback that did not play their first season.
I know.
And I'm not the only one. I'm not an expert, but there are experts that believe the better NFL quarterbacks should sit a year. That throwing them in. I mean, I've seen that argument a million times.
I don't agree with that.
Huh?
I don't agree with that.
Well, and a lot of people don't,
because that's a waste of money.
Okay, you say that, but Tom Brady sat first.
That's such a.
Aaron Rodgers sat first. Brett Favre sat.
Yes, because they had options ahead of them.
Okay, but that's my point. Did they become great? We can name a lot of quarterbacks that played their first year that we can't name because no one remembers who the hell they are. Including some big names. I do get it.
People that they replaced were great.
Manning came in and played for a shitty team. There are some quarterbacks that come in and they do fine, but there's still a lot that don't. And then there's a lot that sit and, end up being the goats. So I'm pretty sure right now, all the NFL quarterbacks we would name, the top ones didn't play their first season. I'd have to think. I think Breeze actually played his first season because he played over Rivers, right?
Yeah.
And then they traded in the middle of the season. Then they did the trade at the end of that season.
Mm-hmm.
So Breeze obviously might.
But it's not because
Breeze was even picked. Wasn't Breeze like a 7? Breeze was not a high draft pick, right? Because he was small and all that. I don't think Drew Brees was a super high pick.
I thought he was.
Do you? All right, you look that up. Maybe I'm wrong. Because I thought that's how it ended up being. I thought they had Phillip Rivers, brought Breeze in the next year, and Breeze won it over the job. But
he was draft pick 201.
201. So that's what, 4th, 5th round?
No, like the second. Yeah, the second round, first pick. So like the
30. I thought you were saying 2. Okay, so he was higher.
So 33rd overall.
Oh, all right. Oh well, I don't know. Good luck, Bengals.
Let's do it, man.
Do you like knowing? Do you remember the old days where quarterbacks would actually the number one pick would sign before the day of the draft? Remember when?
Yes, I do remember that.
Negotiated ahead of time because teams wanted to know that they could get a deal done, so they would sign them actually the day before or whatever. And now, obviously, the money's kind of guaranteed regardless. But
right, that's why I don't think it's as necessary. Well, it's definitely not as useful to teams to try and have a rookie sit, because if they're going to be paying them cheaper for, let's say, minimum 4 years, then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
You got to know what you got.
Yeah. So I'm not taking sides. What I meant is I've heard both sides. Mm-hmm. And Andy Dalton is still a Bengal.
And I say keep him if they can do it for cheap.
I think they owe him, and they're like
I
a
think it's
$10
like
million
$10 million.
thing.
Yeah, I think so.
If you're not going to start him, cut him. I think. But
If they can't find a trade partner, then I think they should keep him.
Right, get over with.
Yeah.
Okay, now do we think that the number 2 pick is set in stone?
No, I don't think so. As much as because the 2 pick is Washington.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's set in stone because there's been a lot of rumors around what they're trying, like what folks are trying to do, or if they're going to wind up drafting another quarterback to come in and replace Haskins, similar to what the Cardinals did with Rosen, replacing him with Kyler. So who knows, like what they're going to wind up doing.
The teams I hear that are trying to move up are moving up for quarterbacks, not young. But everyone says if the Redskins pick there, Young is who they're going to take.
Which is kind of surprising to me, but I don't know.
Would you rather them pick Tua?
No, I'd rather them either take one of the offensive tackles or that's in this draft. And not that it's a great class for tackles, but I would say that they can try and draft for value based off of what they need.
Yeah, but a lot of people think Young could be a defensive game changer. I mean,
Simmons could be a changer, but I think Young is the better prospect. And their defense is one of the surprisingly their defense isn't all that bad, at least up front. They need help in the secondary for sure because Josh Norman, I think they've already released him if I'm not mistaken, and they definitely need some help there.
So the excitement starts after pick 1. You already think there could be excitement already when we get to pick number 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then it signals I mean that's the domino that needs to fall to let the teams know, like, all right, well, what's going to be available later on? Because then if Washington doesn't take a quarterback,
no one else needs a quarterback till pick 5, which is Miami.
Well, Detroit could try and take one. People have been saying that Detroit has been rumored to take a quarterback as an heir to Matt Stafford.
With every record in the NFL, he's going to retire 10 years from now.
I mean, they don't know because of his back injury. He could be like Tony Romo, and the next one, it's a wrap after that, and he can't play anymore. So so they could be trying to take a quarterback like in this draft.
Right.
So they don't know.
You're saying they could. Obviously, the Giants don't need a quarterback. Nope. Miami does. Then at 6, you have the Chargers. They do.
Yep.
7 are the Panthers. They don't. 8 are the Cardinals. They don't. 9 are the Panthers. I'm still a believer the Panthers could use a quarterback, and obviously their running back thinks so also. Do you think Leonard Fournette will be a Panther? I know they came out and said they would listen to trade offers since he opened his mouth.
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of things at play, like when it comes to Leonard Fournette. You can talk about his injuries first off, like both pre-NFL and into his NFL career. You could talk about his lack of, respect for authority. Remember, he got suspended for missing a team photo. I mean, obviously, this was under like Tom Coughlin's rule. So, and then also his fights that he had.
He wasn't in trouble last year, and he was the number one.
He wasn't. I mean, so there's something to that.
And they're kids, and we all know kids eventually become an adult at some point.
Hey, teams always look at that stuff, and they will always try and find a way to not pay somebody.
Next year than the stash. If I had to choose one or the other, I'd say, all right, then we'll go with Leonard, and we'll just see if we can't get a Cam.
No, give me the cheaper option. If I'm building a team, give me the cheaper option, and Minshew's the cheaper option at this point. The cheaper option
could be at 9. You could still get a good quarterback.
Well, that's true.
I guess that was my point. They could be at 9 a quarterback team if they believe in Fournette. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback there, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not a fan of the stash. And I don't think they were either. He didn't start towards the end. No, he started at the end, but they took him out 2 games. He didn't start, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Leonard Fournette and another quarterback because I think Leonard Fournette makes whatever quarterback you bring in better. Regardless.
But at that point, though, then that signifies that they're going to try and either franchise tag him the following year or try and work out some sort of extended deal, which they need to figure out at that point. And I don't know if they're going to do that.
Right. And then obviously at 10, we'll go to the top 10. 10, you have Cleveland. Obviously, Cleveland shouldn't need a quarterback. That's some people question that.
They're good for now.
So then the next big thing is 12, you have the Raiders. The Raiders, are they going to get it? Are they in the quarterback?
They could be.
We all know quarterbacks make the first round of the draft exciting, right? Just to see.
Yeah.
No one trades up anymore for anything else. You know, it's quarterbacks, like you said, there's not that. I think in the last year we've seen a few people move up to get that, tackle or, or something like that. That might be a game changer for their already young quarterback that they got the year before. But will the Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas. There we go.
Will they draft a quarterback tomorrow night?
No, I don't think so. I think their move to pick up Marcus Mariota kind of signified like what their thoughts are moving forward. Very much the way that Mariota was replaced by Tannehill. They already have a backup in place should they need to. And if you wanted to find a facsimile to Derek Carr, it would be Marcus Mariota. He doesn't take too many deep shots, doesn't try and make too many plays like off script, and he is like somewhat mobile. So, I mean, if Derek Carr were to go down, which he has in the past and missed a couple of games like here and there, at least been hurt, then Marcus Mariota would be an easy guy to just slot right in and play the.
So you think Carr is their guy anyway? See, I'm a believer that they're not buying in 100% on Carr, but
I mean, if they were going to do that, then they would have gotten they would have signed somebody completely different stylistically to Carr in free agency. Like if they had signed, let's say, not to say that they would have done it, but let's say if they would have signed somebody like Cam Newton. So then that means to me that they're looking to change something up on offense. Okay. So then they would have drafted a completely separate quarterback. Then they would have taken a quarterback that could match Cam Newton's style, and then Carr basically just like they leave him.
Cam and Winston are a little different. See, I've heard that a few times. What you just said, I've heard a few times. But if I'm not an expert, but I listen to enough shows. Cam and Winston can't be picked up before the draft because of compensation reasons.
I'm not saying they would. I'm just saying the type of player that they are. I'm talking stylistically.
Okay.
I'm not talking about
you made it sound like they would have already picked them up if they were going to do it.
No.
The Raiders could have. I'm just throwing out the Raiders. There could be a team out there that knows we're definitely going to sign Cam or try to get him, but we're not going to try to get him till Wednesday. Or
no. I'm just making the stylistic comparison because Mariota, let's say Mariota and Cam Newton are two completely different quarterbacks stylistically. So I'm saying if they would have taken somebody like Cam, which is a completely separate quarterback to Derek Carr,
somebody that's in that same shadow, that same
right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Since Derek Carr and Mariota are the same type of quarterback, then that to me signals they're not looking to get him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought you were arguing that they haven't signed Cam yet or wouldn't go with Cam, but there's a lot of players saying that the Cam and the Winston thing is going to happen in the next 7 days.
Yeah, I think so. I think shortly after the draft, they'll both find a home. Because
right now, if they get picked up, the compensation for some reason is much different. I think it's like a 4th round, whatever they call it. There's a name for it.
I think they're just called comp picks.
Yeah, comp pick versus I think if they go after the draft, that comp pick drops to 8th or 9th round or something like that. So,
okay.
All right. Anything else exciting? I know we haven't been on in a while. Due to health reasons, just everything. There hasn't been much to talk about. And like I said, I'm dealing with a sick in-law still that's gotten worse and makes it hard.
Fighting that good fight.
Yeah. And trust me, we're fighting the fight now. I've learned so much, and now I've learned to give an IV. I have to give him an IV every
You're
month.
like a registered nurse now. Look at you.
Hey, if I can be a race car driver, I can. Is there a sim nurse game? I'm pretty sure. No, he has I think they're called a pick. He has a thing in him now where this tube goes directly to his heart.
Oh, you got a port?
A port. Thank you. A port. I called it a pick. You're right. It's called a port. He has a port, and the hospital trusts me to inject shit into that port now.
Oh, that's their first mistake.
I got like a instruction thing, and I had nurses here 2 mornings in a row the first morning they showed me how to do it. Then yesterday she watched me do it, which a couple times she had to say, no, hold on. And then today, bam, I was on my own, brother. I'm got to tell you, I've learned a lot having an elderly.
I'm sure, yeah.
Room. I mean, I'm cleaning things I never thought I'd clean. I'm drawing blood out of a port that and cleaning the port and putting drugs in a port. Fantasy has nothing on my nurse job I'm dealing with. So, but I'm got you get a steering wheel, start driving, Chris.
There we go. I'm gonna be an iRacer. Is that what's called iRacer?
Well, iRacer is the iRacer is a real NASCAR type sim, but it's not for PlayStation. It's for computers only.
Okay.
And you pay to play. It's like going to a racetrack, meaning you pay like $25 to participate.
Oh my goodness.
I think you can pay for like some package where it's, you pay for so much, but then you have to buy your cars, you buy the tracks. It's like a real thing. It's not a game, and that became an issue because the iRace people, I hope I'm not saying this right. I think I understand it listening to it, but Ford, I don't think sponsored anything on the iRace thing. So cars were all Chevys, even though they're all the same car.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Some of the NASCAR guys that ride for Ford weren't necessarily allowed to participate in the iRacing because that wasn't technically a Ford car they were driving.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's a make-up car, it's not even a real fucking car. It's a car in a computer box. Ford is saying, nope.
Can't do that, huh?
You can't drive it.
Okay.
I think they fixed that since this iRacing thing started a few weeks ago. So some of the Ford drivers could participate, but at the time, iRace, the program, did not have a Ford available to drive.
That's wild.
They had Toyotas, they had Chevys, but there was no Ford. So that's how serious it is. It's truly
that
like
is serious.
Yeah, it'd be like, and I've seen. Was it the Dream Team where somebody had a problem that wasn't a Nike? I'm pretty sure
that wouldn't surprise me.
Team. There was, Nike obviously sponsored all the Dream Team. So or maybe I have it the other way around. I know there was a sponsorship issue with the Olympics the year that there was the Dream Team.
Okay.
Because not everyone on the Dream Team was a Nike tennis shoe wearing player.
Mm-hmm.
So there was issues, if I'm not mistaken, and I thought if you look at some of the photos, some of the guys have the swoosh on their shirt and some didn't.
Some didn't. Okay. All right.
Because we can't say, well, you know what, America, the American Olympic team was sponsored by Nike, so we all have to wear the Nike shirt. It was like, nope, you signed a contract to wear, Chuck Taylors, then you could not have the swoosh.
Yeah.
You can't race a fake Chevy if you're a Ford driver. I thought that was funny.
Okay. All right.
I guess. So that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
I would recommend a Sunday afternoon, pay attention, and you can also gamble. It's one of the few things still that the gambling sites have. You can now gamble on the race.
That's not surprising.
It's kind of funny because the top guys are not NASCAR guys.
Yeah.
Top guys are the e-racer guys. And then there's a couple. Dale Earnhardt Jr. races a lot of electronic or, sports racing. So he's higher up there, but I'm just saying it's not a real sport, but it is.
Okay.
All right. Last word. First of all, any fantasy news that was bigger than the Gronk thing that you want to bring up? And if not, what do you got going on? What are you writing about? Where can people find it?
Nothing I can think about off the top of my head in terms of fantasy news. I think we covered the big stuff. I mean, all of that stuff is just going to be impacted by whatever happens tomorrow night anyway. Sure. So I'm just kind of letting all that stuff go for the time being, and we'll just see what happens tomorrow and over the weekend, and we'll hash it all out next week.
My goal is that we do a show next week. I don't know if I told you that we got to get close to getting back to doing this every week.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about next week.
Next week we want to talk about the draft. So
yeah, let's do it.
We'll get that, and then we want to get into best ball. I mean, because okay. Last question, or in this best ball stuff, is there what is their rule / what are they doing if there is no season? Will they just refund your money?
Yes. I mean, that's already been asked on multiple platforms. Fanball already addressed it. FFPC already addressed it. I know Yahoo, they're premiering their new best ball platform right now, but I'm assuming they'll have something similar. Whereas because some people are purchasing entries into contests using credits that they won the year prior. So if you enter on credits, then you just get refunded credits. But if you put actual dollars into it, then you get that money back.
All right. And is that based on that there's no NFL?
No NFL season.
Okay. But what if it is a shortened season or anything like that? Or is that falling under a different rule? Or are they saying if there's one NFL game, you're not getting your money back?
I don't think they've gone that far yet to get into to hashing out, if there's going to be a shortened season or part of a season or whatever.
Right.
It's just if the season is canceled or there is no season, then their money gets refunded. That's the last I saw, at least from Fanball.
I would assume if it's going to be shortened, who you draft in best ball would change. I'd assume if it's going to be shortened, we won't have bye weeks. So now do you need 4 tight ends, or
all that stuff.
So everything changes. You can't, so to me, if you've already drafted based on the fact that there's going to be a full season, I would think you'd almost have to refund money, at least if there's less than 3 games or they take away bye weeks. That just changes, the whole setup.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So what do you got going on right now? What are you writing? Are you writing anything? And what websites can people find it if you are?
Gosh, I've got stuff as we talked about it earlier in the show, that while I do think that there's not going to be a season or a hybrid of our regular season, I still been putting out content in the hopes that there is going to be a regular season and everything comes back to normal by that time. So I've got multiple articles out at 444. I've got a piece out on Teddy Bridgewater and his move to Carolina. I've got a piece out on, I just reviewed Yahoo's best ball site. That one actually just dropped this past weekend, where I went over and just kind of played around with their site. It's a pretty decent site. Okay. To go take a look at that. I've got another article that should be dropping soon, looking at win rates for quarterbacks from this past season, and then spinning that forward and looking at how folks should invest in the quarterback position in best ball format. So that will be coming out. I've got a dynasty mock for 444 that should be coming out soon. I'll be working with the dynasty team over there for that. Dynasty League Football, so DLF, the other site that I work with. We're actually having a first round draft show tomorrow night. We're having a live show from 8 o'clock until midnight, where we'll be watching and reacting to the first round picks
again.
Dynasty League Football. So we'll have just go to my timeline at Chris Allen FFWX, and you'll see me retweeting, or there'll be a link to come watch us.
You have to be a member to see the live stream, or is this anybody will be able to watch?
Yep, free on YouTube. Come in, yell at me.
Something on one of my screens now.
Yep, yell at me about something I said that's dumb, and we'll be talking about the picks and stuff all night. We'll have a number of guests that coming through. Most of them will be folks that are contributors for Dynasty League Football. So all of the writers on staff, they'll get a chance to come in, talk about some of their favorite prospects, how they where the landing spots for some of their guys, how they think their value is going to be impacted, things that they expect to see happening.
Questions?
If they want to.
Or can I, long time, first time caller or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll have all of that. So we'll be doing that all night tomorrow night from 8 o'clock to midnight.
And kiss my whatever. I'm going to my favorite Chris.
That's what I'm talking about. So so I'll be doing that. Cool. And then I'll have and then I'll also be doing at least one prospect landing spot or just a draft reaction piece over on Number Fire. So I'll have that out probably within the next week or so as well. So just content everywhere.
Let's hope we have a season.
Yes.
Now the good thing is content changes. So just because you write about it today, if there is no football, next year today is still different. right? I mean,
yeah.
so it's not like you say, well, just save all the articles and we'll print them next year. No, I mean, it always changes. So
yeah,
the content is still there and still valuable. And, so you got to keep up to date.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty cool. Like I said, now I'll pick up your tweet tomorrow and log into my YouTube and get you up on one of my screens.
Turn us on, man.
I will. I'm excited now. Now we should have led with that. You held out the whole show to say, hey,
gotta throw that in right there at the end and let people know.
Mark, tomorrow, just put me on your screens. I might even throw you 65 inches. I might.
Oh man, look at you!
You know what? You're my fave. I'm not.
Look at you.
You're not going to be on the 32s.
Okay. All right.
65, 332s, and 245s.
All right. Take a picture and tweet that out. That you had to put me on the 65 inch.
I will photo it and tweet out the picture of my.
That's what I'm talking about.
Chris.
That's what I'm talking about.
Chris will be on my 65.
Yeah.
You've made my day.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chris Allen, thank you for coming on tonight. And we will be back next Wednesday at 10 o'clock talking. Obviously, now we're just going to talk about my 65 and how good you looked on it. So you can tune in next Wednesday to know about that. And it'll be fun. So
always.
That's right. Everybody, Sportscrew Radio Network. Thank Mr. Lou Landers for putting up with us every once in a while that he, lets us come on. And everyone else who just downloads the podcast. We appreciate it. Live on YouTube, live on Facebook. And we will see you next Wednesday. Chris, say good night.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan Podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.